Well, now, if the problem with COVID is so serious, why aren't people doing more about it? Well, there's nothing new going on here. It's perfectly normal for large groups of people to just not talk about important things. After World War II, the Germans did not immediately start talking about how terribly they all behaved under Nazi rule. It took a generation before people were able to admit the things that they'd done. It was really only when people's children started questioning their parents and what they'd been doing that the Germans became known for the honest self-appraisal that they're known for now. You speak to modern Germans and they acknowledge the role of everyday people in the Nazi atrocities. But that took a long time to come about. If you're talking about public health, well, it took a long time after people first understood cholera before people finally started doing something about it, installing sewer systems. You may have heard of Ignaz Semmelweis, who's the pioneer of hand washing. Well, he highlighted the importance of doctors' hand washing, but his ideas were ridiculed and rejected by his contemporaries. In fact, there's an idea called the Semmelweis reflex. It's a metaphor rather than a real thing, but it's an idea of a certain type of human behaviour involving the rejection of new knowledge because it contradicts something that's so entrenched from before, some norms or some beliefs that people can't let go of. So as I said, Semmelweis was ridiculed and rejected. Now, if we talk about smoking, well, we suspected that smoking was harmful for a very long time. We finally got it confirmed in 1964. But it still took decades for society to do very much about smoking. Talk about the auto industry. They rejected seatbelts for years. If we're looking at HIV and AIDS, well, the first response to HIV and AIDS was to stigmatise the gay community. And HIV was ignored for years before we discovered it was basically a relatively straightforward sexually transmitted disease, and that the only way to protect against it is through barrier methods. Now, once we realised that, it led to the biggest spike in condom usage the world's ever seen, but that took an awfully long time to get going. But there's one big one where we don't talk about it anywhere near as much as we should do. That's climate change. I'm sure that you think that climate change is real. I'm sure you believe it's the biggest threat to humanity that we face, and I'm sure you expect it to be catastrophic. I'm sure you're absolutely horrified that we're leaving it to individual personal responsibility. That's the idea again. Individual personal responsibility means that big businesses, wealthy individuals that could have way more impact than you and I, they don't have to do anything at all. And the people who don't want you to do anything about climate change also don't want you to do anything about COVID. They certainly don't want you spending less money in shops or not going out to restaurants, because those are the places that make the money. Now, you may have some misunderstandings about COVID. You may believe things like the idea that you get COVID once and then you're done. You aren't. You may believe that it's mild. It's not. You may believe that you have to get COVID to boost your immunity. That's not true. Now, all those misunderstandings come from the same people who spent years telling you that climate change wasn't real, or wasn't caused by people, or it's down to individual personal responsibility. Now, I'm not the best person to teach you all about this. If you want a really good source, Google How to Hide a Plague, which is an online lecture and an upcoming book by epidemiologist Justin Feldman.